Welcome to the Four Quarters Podcast with Curtis Branch and Conley Phipps, Oklahoma's premier high school sports podcast, brought to you by Bravado Wireless.
Welcome to the Bravado Wireless podcast, Four Quarters with Curt and Conley. We're joined today by Beau Wallace, head coach of the Broken Arrow Tigers. Beau, welcome to our show.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, kind of a icy day, icy week. We're checking out some new technology, see if it'll work out. But appreciate you being on, and want to talk a little bit about playoffs, talk about kind of the up-and-coming Tigers. You guys have, after a slow start, have really come on of late, and talk about the playoff picture and all that. And Conley, other things we want to talk about tonight?
Well, I asked Coach about, I said, is it all right to say you kind of got off to a slow start? And he said, yeah, we didn't have one of my best players for 9 games. That'll put anybody to a slow start.
Yeah.
So, because it's about having your best players on the floor. But Coach, thanks for coming. You guys are playing great, and looks like knock on wood, you got a possibility or a good chance, or in the rankings, you guys are going to have a home regional. So talk a little bit about how the kind of roller coaster you guys have been on, and how you're playing your best basketball right now at the end, which is what all our goal was always to be doing.
Well, and I think you hit it right. I mean, our first 9 games, we don't play with a kid named Anthony Allen. Just different circumstances come up, and so he wasn't able to play for us. And having him back has been really, really good as far as being a rim protector, someone inside that blocks a lot of shots. And there's not very many people that can just guard him. He's pretty special in there. But I think our team chemistry just has continued to get better. Our guys are guarding at a higher rate. I think we can. And Coach, this is if you feel like you've got some people on the back end, you can gamble a little bit more with your guards. They could be more aggressive because there's somebody else that can clean it up. And then one of the things, and I played for Coach Phipps, so we talk quite a bit, and he's pretty critical of my team. Even days that I think that we played pretty well, he'll send me a long message that you didn't do this very well, you didn't do this, which for me I love, because it's about getting better. And like the last few games, he sent me some positive message, and I'm just going, what in the world's going on with Coach Phipps right now? So, but it's one of those things that our team is just playing really well. And one of the things Coach said was that when you get a kid back like Anthony that rebounds the ball so well, it's easy for everybody else just to kind of, let him rebound and then go do other things. But he felt like, and I feel like we still have 5 guys that are rebounding the ball, and so that's probably the biggest thing is we've turned it around on defense, and then offense has just come. I mean, we're getting easy baskets. I think we're executing a lot better offensively, and we're patient. We're not in such a rush to be able to score the ball. And it's funny how you score more points when you're not in a rush.
Right, a little bit better shot selection.
Definitely.
It's interesting what you said about Anthony coming in and kind of being the centerpiece of your defense, and on the back end, I was an assistant ORU for several years with Scott Sutton, and Sutton name, that's defense, right? That's the brand. That's what we preached, and that's what we tried to do. And we had back-to-back kids come out of junior college, Kendrick Moore, and then Sean King. And they were both shot blockers. And that 4-year span, our defense was incredible, because you could make mistakes and you had a rim protector. And I'm telling you that so 4 years, that 5th year, we didn't have a shot blocker. And we're looking around going, hey, we're doing the same things every day in practice. We can't guard anybody. Well, it makes a huge difference to have a guy back there.
Definitely.
Now, Coach, let me say this. So, you and I have tangled quite a bit the last 6 years. I was at Sapulpa and then Booker T. But a lot of these players that are playing for you now they may not have the same role they had a couple years ago, but you've got a lot of experienced kids. More than 5. We're talking 6, 7, 8 guys that have been in many Frontier Valley Conference battles.
Definitely. And that's one of the good things, and I smile as I talk about this, but you look at it in college, you look at it in high school. The older teams are winning right now, just with all this stuff going on with COVID and different things like that. Is these guys? I remember saying something to our group early this year and just kind of said, hey, you know what, we can do this and we can do this. And I said, we couldn't do that when you guys were sophomores. And I threw a lot of these guys in the fire as sophomores. And one of my seniors now said, yeah, Coach, we didn't even know how to understand a scouting report as a sophomore. And he said, Coach, we couldn't get the ball past half court. And it's so refreshing to see their growth and understanding of the game and how to follow a scouting report and, hey, what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. And so, having older guys and some of these guys that have played a lot of minutes is really good. I mean, we looked at it now as our starting five. We have 2 kids coming off the bench that started for us even this year. So once we got Anthony back, we've kind of made a switch. Aaron Johnson's played really well at the guard spot, just kind of facilitating for us. So we kind of put him in the lineup, and Jared Barnes and Simon Blair coming off the bench, which they had started for us in the first 8 or 9 games.
Well,
so,
they started last year.
Yeah, and those guys, and so having that depth, and I tell people all the time is I don't have 5 starters, I got 7, because I can bring those in, and then we've got 2 sophomores that are they're getting their feet wet right now, and they're not having to play all the minutes, but they're doing what we need them to do for the span that they're in there. So it's nice to be able to just rotate, and probably my biggest thing is I try to keep Tyler and George on the floor, one of them all the time, and so it's really good to be able to do that along with Anthony and Tally on the back end, and so we've got a lot of depth, and we got a lot of guys that are buying into what we're doing because they see what's happening when they do that.
Yeah, I went to the Jinx game here about 10 days ago, and I texted Conley after the game, and I said they must have blocked 38 shots. I mean, it wasn't that high, but it was impressive how much they were able to press out on Jinx's good kids and really take them off the line and attack the basket and have rim protection there with Tally and Allen. And so it's made you guys a lot better defensively, certainly. But where it wasn't just Allen showing up in the lineup. I mean, there's some big games that you all had down the Shawnee tournament that kind of, I think, give you all some momentum. You want to talk about any of that?
Well, and what's funny is, so we get quarantined the Tuesday before that Thursday coming up, and our kids come back on Wednesday with a negative test. So we had probably 3 of our starters that on Wednesday still hadn't got the results back. So I'm calling administration going, hey, I know we have a rapid test somewhere here. Can our kids come take it? So long story short is 3 of our kids didn't even practice that Wednesday because by the time we got done and they got their test done, and then you're talking 3 starters, they didn't even get to
You're talking about they were walking in the gym.
They walked in the gym as we're finishing up. Yeah. And so we get on a bus Thursday morning at 6 o'clock and head down to Shawnee and go play in that tournament. And I think that gave us a lot of confidence because we win our first game, and I think we played El Reno, and then we played Norman North the second game, which Norman North's ranked pretty high, and they're one of the top 3 teams that I probably played this year as far as athletes and just being able to do things. And Coach McCoy does a good job with them. And so we go down there and we beat them, and it ended up having to go to overtime for some different reasons, but we beat them in overtime, and then we kind of I felt like we ran out of gas against Choctaw. And Choctaw shot 58% from the 3 line, so it's hard to beat, but I think that gave our kids a lot of confidence that we can go play with anybody, and just having Anthony back was a refresher. That was his first game, and you're talking January 22nd, 23rd, whatever that weekend was. That was his first game to play. So coming off of quarantine, no practice for a week, showing up on Wednesday, got 1 day of practice, and 3 of your guys don't even practice that day. So I thought it gave our kids a lot of confidence going that way, and then just continue to build on that from there.
Yeah, that's a good tournament. I played in that at Sapulpa, and you had Stillwater and Choctaw was in it. Norman North's been in it for years. Shawnee has got a heck of a team this year, and it's kind of nice to get out of town and go to a different part of the state and play different teams, and I think those last 2 games for sure will pay off in the end. And I think it helps other people if you're paying attention in the rankings to try to get the rankings right. Let me ask you this. There's been a lot of, more so than any other year, seems like to me, a lot of, dispute on the rankings. A lot of coaches frustrated getting on Twitter, hey, do your job. and the problem with the rankings is, and we talked about this on another show with Brandon Maddox at Coweta, 5A, is, it's hard to take the human element out. How do you feel about 6A basketball going to districts?
Oh, I would love it. I would love. I've talked about it a lot. I think when you go to the rankings, I know exactly what you're talking about, and some of those coaches have a great point of what they're making as far as that. And I think when I'm ranking, I'm always looking at the whole body of work. I don't think you look at one game and say, okay, that's what. And I think this year is especially tough just because of COVID, and you don't know if a kid's best player has been out for 9 games or that game that you're looking at. So you kind of look at the body of work and do film. I think my wife probably gets mad at me. I think every Sunday I spend about an hour and a half, and I literally write down every team, who they played, if it was a good loss, bad loss, and I try to do it the right way because I feel like it always comes back. But you got other teams that don't see everybody, and so it's easy for a team on the west side to rank us down just because they haven't seen us, but they've seen Jinx or Wassel and they rank them higher, even though we could have just beat Jinx or we could have just beat a Wassel. So there's a lot of, I think, playing the season out. I think having districts would be great. I think the other thing is if we don't do districts, we need to go back to the point where the Oklahoman has a vote and the Tulsa World, and at least it's not everybody just on the coaches. And I talked to Coach Martin the other day, and his comment was why do we rank all year if the East-West is the only thing that matters? Which I understood what he's saying is in the final rankings, He's 8, we're 10, and that's because people probably didn't look to see that the last time we played, which was the only time, we actually beat them. So it's easy to look at all that stuff, but when people don't do their due diligence, that becomes a problem. So I think giving 2/3 to somebody that doesn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, probably makes it a little better if we don't get to a districts.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Give paper the vote, but I think Curt and I have talked about this at length. Even when we were at Booker T, we had some shenanigans going on when I was coaching at Booker T, just people doing ridiculous things, and I don't know if it's lazy. I don't know if they're trying to tilt the deal in their favor, or like you said, they just don't do their due diligence. Because I'm the same way.
Right.
I would spend hour and a half every Sunday because you know what? Because I know people care about this. I know coaches are working hard. I know players are working hard. I just took now. It doesn't mean I always got it right, but if I didn't get it right, it wasn't because I didn't try to get it right.
Yeah. We had one coach rank us. We'd beaten one of our conference foes twice last year, and the final ranking came out, and they had that team ahead of us
on the split.
And then we had another team that ranked us, 27th, I think, for most of the year. In the bottom 5 of the 6A, and just interesting things. When people do that.
Yeah.
And so the coaches definitely have an opinion on it. It definitely there is a human factor in it.
Right.
And so you have to weigh that out. We'd actually talked to Coach London about this, the girls coach at Fort Gibson, and he made the comment that I think it was him that talked about that some coaches that they've seen where they'll kind of gang up to try to force matchups and regionals at the 4A and 3A level, that he's heard of that going on in the past. And it's an amazing thing of what coaches will sometimes do. I think most are above board and most do the right thing, but there are times, you're competitive, you want to win, you want to give your kids the best chance to win. And there's a lot more people to go through in 4A, 3A, 2A than there are in 6A and 5A for sure.
Well, and I think just another thing on that note is when you do things on purpose, and I've heard different coaches say different things about, hey, they sent these teams over, they don't want to travel there. But my biggest thing is when I'm ranking them, the reason that I feel comfortable and when I'm doing it is I never want to hurt kids. And if that kid, so let's say Norman North, PC West, and Midwest City are 3 of the teams they sent over, if they deserve it, those kids should get it. It's not their fault the OSSA sent them over here. And some of the coaches don't think that way. They don't want to travel. And so, I think at the end of the day, it's still about the kids. And if they earned it, they should be able to host instead of it just being a buddy-buddy system. And it's funny because I never call anybody and ask them about their rankings ever. I've never done it in 13 years of coaching, and it's so funny that this year and even last year was a lot of people calling about different things, like how are you going to rank, or texting about this, and I'm just like, I'm going to rank the right way. Right. I mean, so
quit trying to rig it.
Yes.
So how do you think COVID is going to? I mean, because you've got some people that played 20 games. Booker T's played 10 games.
I think that was
and so. I mean, do you think that because of that you might see some surprises come playoff time? You think you'll see more, or you think you'll see less? In a year that we've seen nothing but surprises.
Well, I think if you've played 10 or probably more games, you're not going to be really surprised by what that team. I mean, because there's so many stops and goes, and so again, I think having an older team is great this year. I can't imagine being in, and I'm friends with Coach Brown over at Booker T, but he's in a tough situation with a lot of young guys and trying to maneuver through COVID and stops and goes, and those kids aren't mature enough as far as basketball-wise to know how to handle it, know how to handle their body and taking care of their schoolwork. And and that's the other thing is these kids are going virtual, then they're going to school, and so it's easy to be ineligible because you're not in front of that teacher, and everybody doesn't learn through a screen. So, you're going to have some of those surprises, but I think for the most part is if a person has 10 games or more, I've probably got at least 9 of those films, and I can at least see those kids and who they're playing with and tendencies to kind of make sure that you don't drop it. But one of the things we tell our kids all the time is you just never know when it's going to end, because it ended last year and there's a lot of really good teams that didn't get a chance to win a state championship. So just try to keep them hungry every day, just to play that game or to come to practice.
Yeah, I saw David Jackson had a quote in the Tulsa World this morning, and it's just interesting. Coach, when they canceled the Thursday, March 12th of last year, canceled state tournament. A lot of teams, including our team, Booker T, we're on our way to the arena to play, right?
Right.
There was 8 confirmed cases in the state of Oklahoma, all right, and they canceled the state tournament. Now a year later, okay, what we've learned is, and I was glad to see David Jackson say this, that, hey, we're going to get a champion even if there's nobody in the gym to watch the game.
Right.
And, my deal is they've learned a lot in the last 12 months. Based on the information they had, they made the right decision last year not to play. But it would have been neat to give those teams a chance to play, especially since it's gotten worse, and now we're going to have a state tournament this year, and so it's just it's affected everybody. It's affected learning, it's affected playing, it's affected coaches, and everything else.
It's affected employees, and marriages, and all
it's
kinds
affected
of
Curt's waistline.
It's affected a lot of things.
So I got to tell you guys a story because we're in here. We're in Broken Arrow's team room, socially distanced, and Curt's got his new equipment. We got a microphone that looks like I don't know what it looks like.
It looks pretty awesome.
It does look awesome.
It's electric blue. It's pretty sharp.
It's beautiful. Anyway, so we're in Broken Arrow's gym, and like I said earlier, Beau and I had tussled quite a bit in the last 6 years, but we came over here my third year at Sapulpa, okay. And we were good, and BA had a good team, and the thing I remember about the game is that Trey was terrible. He was a freshman, okay. Oh, he was terrible all game, and BA ended up beating us. But there's about 3 or 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I took him out. Bless his heart, he was terrible. And one of the Sapulpa parents yelled at me, "About time!"
Sapulpa parents yelled at you quite a bit.
Well, that's true. That was one of the nicest things they yelled at me. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's one of my memories of playing over here, Beau. And that's not a good memory. But let's go back to when you played at Broken Arrow. We've got a great picture here in front of us of the 96-97 state championship Broken Arrow Tigers. all right, which you were a great player on, coached by one of my mentors and a guy that I love to this day when I get to see him, talk a little basketball, just hang out, John Phillips. And as I remember, okay, you guys kind of came from nowhere to win that state championship. And another interesting thing is Mike Humphrey, who was assistant on that team, is still your assistant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could say so much good things about Coach Phillips. My high school career was really fun. I think the year before I got to play as a junior, I got to start as a junior. I'll tell you, one of the things Coach Phillips did to me, and it kind of woke me up, is I felt like I was better than another kid on our team, which is my best friend named Andre Cotton. And my sophomore year, he pulls Andre up, and it just fueled me. It just fueled me for that whole year, that whole semester, that whole summer. And then I ended up having the privilege of starting as a junior, and Andre didn't. And it was one of those things that, Coach Phillips is great at some mind games. He's a psychology teacher in high school, so I kind of figured that stuff out. Like, there's different things that he would do just to kind of get us going and to push the right buttons. And so, I got to play my junior year, and then my senior year came, and we were just okay. Our junior year wasn't great, and I think we lost our first 2 games. And then we went on like a 10-game winning streak, and we lost that game, and I can remember it. My best friend has the ball at half court, kind of holds it over his head, and I think we were playing Union, and Maddox takes the ball from him. And Union beats us. So that was our 3rd loss. So we're 10-3 at the point. And just going in the locker room, and Coach Phillips never wavered. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is Coach Phillips never said this except for this year, when he told us every practice that we were the best team. And I think it was one of those things that every guy on the team started to believe. And so as we kept playing, we lost a game here or there. We finished 22-7. We lost to Memorial, and then got to play them again in the state championship game at OU. So that was, that was big.
I remember
for
that.
us.
I was thinking it was at Lloyd Noble.
Yeah, and nobody, no one really thought about us. But the thing about that team, and it kind of reminds me a lot of this team, is everybody knows what their role is. No one, like the other day we had Simon, which comes off the bench for us. He has 18. He's our leading scorer at 18. So we've had 3 or 4 different leading scorers consistently. It's never just the same kids. And so for us, it was the same thing. As I could be the leading scorer, Flam could be it one day, Ramon inside could be it. So we had a lot of different guys that just did their job. And so, I'm always grateful for Coach Phillips, and we talk all the time. Just he gives me advice, or he pretty much tells me what he thinks, and I just listen and go, yeah, you're right, Coach, or I don't know about that. And there's obviously things that he does that I don't do, and we're different people. Coach is really one of those big believers in, they only need to hear one voice, and I'm a little bit different. I think they need to hear some other voices at times, but I think generations have changed. So, and then Coach Hump, Coach Hump is my guy, and so he's still on staff here. I think he's been here 31 or 32 years in Broken Arrow.
Yeah, well, it's probably his first job, so it's probably, I think he was a year older than me, so it's probably 31 or 32.
Yeah, and he just, and Coach Hump he just tells it like it is. He's done it long enough that he tells it like it is, and just a great friend and can call on it. And then Coach Crawley, people don't realize Coach Crawley probably did more for me in high school than anybody else did. He's probably the most selfless person that I know, as far as just, he would bring clothes. I'm one of 9 kids, and people don't know that, but he'd bring clothes to the house. He'd give me dinner. He'd do different things just to, not that I always needed it, but just to help out. He's just that type of person.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We played. He's a couple years younger than me, but I think my last high school game I ever played at Cleveland, we got beat in the area by Cassia Hall and Bill Kuslaika was the head coach, as a matter of fact, who I did my student teaching under right here in this gym teaching PE. But Coach Crawley was on that team. and great guy, funny guy, and good basketball guy. Coached for a long time, so some good memories right there. Coach Phipps is a legend, great mentor to a lot of people.
Until the end of February, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off of a new iPhone 11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Well, let's fast forward after BA, and I want to ask you about, and I don't think many people that will hear this podcast will know this name. And but after you went to NEO,
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So after your career at NEO, you finished your career at Liberty University, and the head coach there was a gentleman named Mel Hankinson, who has written many books. Very, very widely respected in the coaching circles, was a great player in his own right. So I want you, because I've never really heard, only thing I know about Coach Hankinson is Greg Tack, and we talked about before we turned on the microphone. Tack was an assistant down there and just talked about how great a dude he was. And Tack and I were at Northeastern State together on the same staff. But talk a little bit about him, what kind of coach he was, maybe his philosophy. If you use any of that in your present day coaching here at Broken Arrow, talk a little bit about him. I'm interested in what you have to say.
Well, I think as a coach, you probably use a little bit of everything, and probably before I get to Mel, I have to say Lonnie Spencer at NEO. I mean, he was probably one of the toughest coaches that I played for, and a lot of kids don't like that, but for some reason I do. Because I understood where he was going with it, and so he there's probably a lot of things that I do that between him and Coach Phipps and even Coach Hankinson. I think of Coach Hankinson, the things that I remember about him is it was more of the mental part of it, and I probably didn't know of how wide respected he was because it was Liberty in Virginia, so I hadn't really heard about it anymore. I was really hoping to go to ORU, and I'm still mad at Coach Self, and I talked to him. One day I talked to him, and he ended up going to TU the year that I would have came out. But I really thought I was going to be at ORU, and they had looked at me and different things like that. But so most people don't know it's a Christian school just like ORU is out in Virginia, and so he was big on the mental aspect, and then some of the things that he talks about is like watching film and fast forward, and I'm just like, I never really understood it until I got older, and like, okay, because if you can slow your brain down to do different things that way, might help you be successful. But very, very smart. I think sometimes us as players at the time probably didn't understand everything he was saying because I think he had so much knowledge that sometimes it was hard for us to grasp because he'd say something, and you're like, which one am I supposed to grab? And so, but I love the fact that he gave me an opportunity to go play at the Division I level. That was one of my goals that I wanted to do. He's big on X and O's and just being able to run stuff. And in our first year, we weren't great, but we were okay. We went down and played some tough teams. I mean, we got to go to NC State. I got to go to Baylor. I got to go overseas to Buckingham Palace, and so there's a lot of things that I will never forget just from being there. And I met one of my good friends that we talk to all the time being down there. But Mel was just so smart, and then the coaches that he had with him. I know one of them, I think Otis Hughley at one point was on the Golden State Warriors staff. So we had some people around him and some guys that did some good thing. And then his son was Chad Hankinson was on staff. So there was a great staff that when we went down there and just learning from him and just learning how to do things a different way and probably more East Coast than Midwest that we've been used to. And so I had a blast being down there at Liberty.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be sure and ask you about that. So yeah, so I knew you were at NEO, Lonnie Spencer, who was a long time TPS coach. Rogers had some great teams. And Curt, he actually coached me in an all-star game in '84. We played it over at Booker T. I love Coach Spencer. And, you know, he followed Larry Gibson at NEO and had a good run there. And, you know, and back when Beau played junior college, you know, junior college, and I hope I don't offend anybody, it's a lot different now than it was then. I mean, you talk about great players, great teams, you know, and for whatever reason, just the amount of Division I players in junior colleges now, just percentage-wise, is less. I don't know if that's prep. I'm not smart enough to figure out why, but I watch it and I know. So
yeah, you definitely didn't have prep schools to the extent that you do these days, and I think you see a lot of kids opt for that route over junior college. I think a lot of those higher end kids go that route because, frankly, a lot of those prep schools travel better, have better facilities.
Well, the prep school doesn't count against your eligibility either,
right?
You know, and so yeah, I shouldn't have gone past Coach.
No, you're good.
He's a legend and great coach.
His son is actually one of our people that works here now, so he does all the.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
I knew that.
So
I knew that.
yeah, and what's funny about Coach Spencer is Greg was there my sophomore year, and my goal was just to eat him up every day. Like I think Greg to this day still is just like, I don't know why you were so mean to me, but it's just one of those things. If you're the coach's kid, you know,
Come on, Beau, you're not like that.
On the basketball court, it's totally different, you know. And I try to tell people, but I think that the game has changed. I think there was a lot of people, at least when I came out, that were trying to get to that Division I level. And I think the difference for me was, you know, when I got there, I don't think kids were as hungry as they were trying to get there. You know, it was kind of like, hey, I made it here. Okay, I'm good. And so I probably had some of the best competitions at JUCO. I mean, it was just.
Yeah. So who else was on that? Who else was in any of those 2 years you were there?
Oh man, Corey Crisp, Brent Porter, Rodney Suter. I mean, we had some bigs.
Okay.
I mean,
we had some Oklahoma kids.
Oh yeah. We had some guys. I can't remember.
So Suter ended up going to OU or OSU.
Suter went to OSU.
Yeah, he played with Todd Green. So Todd Green was a Cleveland guy, rest in peace. But he was an all-stater that same year in '97. Was a really good player.
So was Porter. Played for Coop at East Central.
Oh, Porter was
a great player.
I think Porter and Suter. Porter had 51 one day in a triple overtime, and Suter had 30, and I had about 17 assists. I was loving it.
Todd played at NEO. He played with y'all. Yeah, I think he played at NEO, or he played. Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't know.
Anyway, he was a legend.
There's some great players that, especially from this area, that played up there.
I bet he scored 1,000 points on the cross screen, you know, on the block, screening it away and getting the ball on the backside, shooting layup. He scored like 20 in one game off that one play. He was amazing at it. So tell us how you get. I mean, how did you get to be the head coach you were head coach at East Central, then got the job here. How did you get the job at East Central?
Well, what's crazy is I was working at a bank and I was assistant coach here with Coach Stecker. And so I get a call that Muskogee wanted to interview me. So I go down there and I interview for that job. I didn't get it, obviously. It was one of those things that T. Scott was in the running as well, and they wanted somebody with some experience. So they took T. Scott, calls me probably 20 minutes after they let him know and says, hey, I want you to come down here and be the assistant. And for me at that time, it made no sense to go be an assistant at Muskogee when I was already assistant at Broken Arrow. Yeah. And I lived here. And so probably 2 days later, Travis Hill calls me, says, hey, I'm at the bank, and and if you know Travis, he just, hey, don't wear one of those fancy suits and all that stuff. Just come on over.
He was on our first podcast. Yeah. He was our first guest.
Really?
That's the fourth-quarter podcast. Yeah, great.
I could talk all day about Travis. Yeah. Travis and I mean, I'd do anything for that guy. But so he calls me, and he's like, don't put on one of those fancy suits. So I obviously I go home and I put on a suit. I at least put on a shirt and tie. I wasn't going to show up to an interview like that. And Travis and I, we talked and kind of hit it off. And the thing that I liked about him, which you don't find a lot in high school athletics, is he was big on kids playing multiple sports. And I knew in order to be successful over there at East Central, that I'm going to need those football kids. And he was gracious enough to anytime, especially in the off season, anytime those kids had basketball, go ahead and go there. Because his whole thought was, Coach, they're running, they're jumping, they're changing direction. What am I going to get out of them in this springtime that you're not already doing? So that's kind of how I became the head coach over there. Then I hired my brother, which was probably the next best move that I did, and hired Coach Hill and a guy named Dwayne McIntosh to kind of help us get going over there. And we kind of, they were in a good shape when we got there. Brian Morgan had done a good job with them, had got them to the semis of the state tournament, probably the year before that. Lost a lot of kids, so took a couple years, but ended up, I think my 4th year over there, got to the state championship game with a kid named Caleb Porter, which is Brent's little brother, and that sucker could play. And people ask me all the time is, Coach, how did you get there with those guys? But what they don't know is a kid named Stan Von Taylor, which was 5-star, 4-star recruit at OU for football, was on that team as well. We had another 6'9" kid inside, so we had some guys that could play. So that's kind of how I got over there. Is Travis made that phone call, and then Mr. O'Malley made the position happen as far as teaching wise.
Yeah. So we played against Stan Von. Was that when I was coaching in Noah with Chris? Mm-hmm. So he was that year you went to state finals was when we played you all in the Union tournament?
I believe yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, with that charge that they call for Zoe. That's still not a charge. I tell Chris that all the time. Should have been, or that blocking call. It should have been a charge on Zoe. We did a great job defensively. Yeah. I still won't let Chris live that down because
he almost hit about a 3/4 court shot to beat us. We were up 2, and he almost hit a 3. Stan Vaughn was on one of the almost hit it.
Well, what's funny is Chris and I didn't talk for about a week and a half after that game because I was so mad at him because he kept saying, "Oh, it wasn't a charge." Yes, it was. I can look at it 3 times and tell you right now. Still a little upset about that one.
I'll tell you, that's funny when talking about that, and I'm talking to somebody when we first started ORU. There was just 4 of us on staff. Of course, Scott Summers, the head coach, and he had Tom Hankins, myself, and Corey Williams. Mm-hmm. Okay, and just a bunch of great guys, and just I love my time there. But we would get on these kicks where we were still young. I got to ORU. I'm 30, 36, 35, and Hank and I are the oldest ones, and Coach Sutton and Corey are much younger. So at lunch we go down, we play 2-on-2 basketball, and it was always Coach Sutton and I against Corey and Tom. And I'm telling you, we would go down there and play for an hour, and we would walk up from that practice gym into the office. And Scott and I wouldn't talk to Corey and Tom, and Corey and Tom wouldn't talk to Scott and I because we were so mad at each other about the game. We had to quit doing that because we couldn't get anything done in the office. Yeah. So that went on a while. So then we started playing, a couple months later, lunch, we'd go play tennis. Same team, Scott and I, Tom, same thing. We had to quit competing because we couldn't get anything done in the office because nobody talked to anybody.
Yeah. Those are the best days of my life when they were all on staff there because I had a job that would allow me. It's when BlackBerries came out, and I thought it was the greatest thing of all time because I was virtual. And I could be on the golf course in the summertime. We would just destroy Meadowbrook Golf Course. We'd be out there all day, every day, and I could answer I could answer an email. I could answer it. Yeah, I'm right here. And you think about it in the technology and how much we take it for granted, but that was a great revelation for me back then because we had a lot of fun on the golf course.
Well, and you mentioned about competing, and one of the things is it's kind of funny since I've been over here at Broken Arrow. What we do is we kind of hat draw for who we're scouting each game, and so the losing 2 assistant coaches or the losing 2 coaches have to buy the top 3 coaches steak dinner at the end of the year.
Oh, is that right?
You could go in our office right now. We've got on the board like, hey, right now I'm 3-1, and there's some guy. So I think competition is great. So we found a different way to compete without beating each other up because I don't think any of my coaches except for Chris is going to get out there, and we don't want to play against Chris anymore. So we're all getting too old for that.
Yeah, he's still too skinny. He can still play.
Exactly.
That's that's pretty good. that scouting gets it gets competitive, you know, and when you're an assistant coach at any level and it's your scout, you know, you don't want to lose because you put in a lot of time and a lot of effort. You know, spend a lot of time.
You can always tell any game, any level, whether it's NBA, high school, college, who's got the scout, because he's the guy standing up screaming. The one assistant's like, no, and he's got the notepad in his hand.
Or calling the out of bounds play.
Yeah, calling all so it's pretty funny. You know those guys. That's their one chance to compete and have a chance to impact it, and so it's always fun, boy. I mean, I love to get chances to scout when we were at Booker T and try to take a lot of pride in it. And then once we figured out how to use Huddle and make clips, it was, we were the most technically challenged staff in the state. I mean, we might not have lost if we'd have figured that out earlier.
Curt did 90% of the scouting. I mean, he liked doing it, and I trusted him. And so, I mean. And then especially if we were in the tournament, playing in a tournament, I'd take the first opponent because I knew who we were going to play. And Curt would be like, "Well, who you want to take next?" I said, "You got the other 7." I got Thursday. You have Friday and Saturday.
It's a good thing I don't sleep, but I would take it. And I mean,
he better know what's going on too, Bo. And he did.
And I think one thing that you said is just being able to trust the people that you're working for, or that's working for you, because I know it wasn't as easy for me at East Central just because. You know, it's my first job. And I think as I've come over here and being able to have a bigger staff and just all the ins and outs that go on of being at a 6A program, I know I can't do it all myself. And that's probably my advice that I'd give to younger coaches is be able to delegate, but you got to be able to trust those guys to be able to do that. So, you know, I'm fortunate I got a staff that they've done it a long time. And I can say, hey, we're all going to take 4 games. And that way they're never – you know, they're not scouting Tuesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Friday of the following week. So we kind of space it out that way, and we'll trade if we need to, just being on the schedule. But it's nice to be able to do that.
I tell you, when I tell people this story, they do not believe me. So, you know, it's like you said, you divide up the games, right? That's what we did at ORU. That's what everybody does. When I was an assistant at TCU, Coach, I did my second year. Okay, I did every game, scouted every game. I mean, I would be in the office at 3:30 in the morning scouting an opponent that we weren't going to play for 10 days just to try to keep up with. But that was my, you know, back then, you know, you only had 2 assistants on the road, and the head coach could be on the road. So I was basically what they call the third assistant. You know, this is 3 years ago. You know, so that was one thing I could do, and that's what I scouted every game.
Wow.
VHS tape.
Wow.
Coach, you ever seen the VHS tape?
I've seen a couple of them.
You got a VCR at your house I can borrow?
I do not have a VCR.
Hey, what's funny is you said VHS, and so I have a box of all my older games. And my kids one day saw it, and it says VHS on it. And they asked me, "Is like, Dad, is that Virginia High School?" Because they've never seen it. They don't even know it. And so I showed it to them. They're like, "What is this?" You know, because everything is so digital. So it's amazing how all this stuff has changed over the years.
And scouting, I mean, you know, Curt would go a lot in person to watch teams, and I'm just going to see if Bo will send the game on Huddle, you know, or watch Arrow Vision.
Exactly. Yeah. So the high school broadcast saved a lot of travel for coaches. I think it still matters that you see people in person because you can.
It does. It makes a difference. I agree.
You just pick up little things, just tendencies and just the way they walk, the way they carry themselves, and I think those are things that you can't find necessarily on film.
Right.
But you know, to me it's a lot of fun because I love the game and love to watch it. So I've been trying to scout games this year, and I haven't found anybody that wants to listen to me.
Oh, I'm going to listen to you. I'm taking you up on that offer.
Oh, that's good.
So let's talk about the rest of the season. How many more regular season games you got left? And then playoff rankings come out tomorrow, right?
No, not the rankings. The regionals themselves come out tomorrow at, 4 o'clock usually when they do it?
Well, I don't really know how many more games we have because they just keep getting canceled. So we still haven't played Muskogee that we were supposed to. We still have a Union game that we needed to make up. And then this week we were supposed to play Sapulpa and Booker T tomorrow. Tomorrow night. So I don't know if we're going to even get to play that. And then next week you're looking at Owasso and Jinx. Or Jinx and Owasso, I'm trying to remember what order. But with this weather, we might not get to Tuesday. We might not play any of those games and just get our Friday game in and try to get ready for regional. So we're supposed to. We have 3 more games right now scheduled without rescheduling anything. But if we get to it, I don't know. I mean, it's just with the, you got all the COVID now, all of a sudden the weather hits. So we'll just have to see. I think that's probably the toughest thing, and us coaches talked about it today, is trying to keep the guys engaged, because you guys know, I mean, at this time, they're tired of practicing. They just, let's play games, and then so we're going to go another week and not get to play, and then all of a sudden you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you get to play Friday, Saturday. So just trying to keep your kids engaged, trying to keep them fresh, kind of trying to keep them healthy are some of the things that we're going to try to do. I mean, like today, we didn't get to practice, so this is their day off, which I was going to give them one Friday because we weren't playing. But this is kind of their day off, but just keeping them hungry and kind of going from there.
I'll tell you who else is tired of practicing, Beau Wallace.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
I know you get to a point where, baby, let's play.
Yeah.
Let's play.
Well, especially when you're playing good.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you can't wait to play.
Right.
The way you guys are playing.
Right, and that was probably our biggest thing is just not getting to. The crazy thing too, and I didn't mention this, is most people don't know that we've only had 2 home games all year.
Their first home game was the one I canceled.
Yeah,
Jinx.
So our games got canceled or postponed or whatever, things happen, and so we've been on the road. So our kids are used to that and used to being on the road and all that, but it's nice to get a home game, but we haven't had even a Friday night home game yet.
Wow.
I mean, we played once on Tuesday, and then I think we played Saturday versus Jinx, and that's been our 2 home games, and so we missed this week. It looks like we're going to miss tomorrow, so we missed 2 games this week that we didn't get. We missed Union, we missed Muskogee, and so if next week, if we don't get that home game Tuesday, we won't have another home game until our regionals.
That's unbelievable.
So it's just crazy. I mean, we might only get 4 this whole year.
We played over here last year, I guess it was in February, Booker T, and you guys had a great crowd. Student section was awesome, and pretty good. It's a beautiful facility, but you guys have a great home court advantage. And I tell you another thing. I think we're about to the end, but I just wanted to congratulate you on your big scrimmage that you started in November. I know 2 years ago, last year we came over here and scrimmaged. We scrimmaged Kingfisher, we scrimmaged Putnam City West, we scrimmaged Norman. That's really turned into a big event.
Yeah.
And I remember, there was Kansas was here watching us scrimmage, and OU was here watching us scrimmage, and you had Division I coaches in the stands. So that's been something neat that you've started. Here in Oklahoma, so everybody having to go to Wichita Falls to play great competition. You've been able to stay here.
Broken Arrow's a much better place to find food for 400 teams on a Saturday than Wichita Falls.
Well, and just talking about that real quick, my whole goal was is to just bring some notoriety to our state and to get some kids looks that might not get those looks, and and I kind of stole that. I talk to the guys at Wichita Falls all the time about different things, and we try to make sure I do it on an opposite weekend of them, because I think it's great for kids to go to Texas and do that, but it's also great for them to come here and be able to do this. So our administration has been really good of allowing us to do that and for it to happen. And for me, it's not it's a fundraiser, but it's not. It's one of those things that we're not trying to get rich off of it. We want to cover our costs and all that, but if 5 kids get to go to school that normally wouldn't be seen, then we did our job. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is getting those kids some looks that might not get those.
Yeah, well,
yeah, their money maker is the fireworks stand on County Line Road. Branch families hit that a time or two.
Well, we stopped that.
All the people come running out when they see the Branch family pull up. We
had to stop that. That was a lot of work and not enough.
The only complaint I have about the scrimmage is you need to get better officials. That's all.
That's every year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But Coach Hedge down there at Hershey in Wichita Falls, he's an Oklahoma guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's an Oklahoma guy.
I think he was at Lawton, I believe.
Yeah, and that's a big time deal.
Yes.
So I know you guys have been down there several times, and we were lucky enough to go compete in that deal.
It was fun. I mean, we went there 3 times, and 2 of them we had good parking lot conversations before we hopped on the vans to head home. And but I think it was
seemed
really
to end well for us.
yeah. But no, I think it's what you want at that time of year. You're tired of scrimmaging yourself or seeing each other in practice, and you get to go get a pretty good test of what's out there. And I thought when we got to play over here was really a good thing for us, and got to see some of the best in the state.
Right.
Was really great events, and again, facilities here are second to none in the state of Oklahoma. So,
right.
So I thought it was kudos to you guys for putting that on.
Appreciate it.
So we're going to let you go. We got ice to have to deal with, and games to go watch. And
I'm nervous because Kurt's driving.
I promise I won't text and drive on the way home.
Well, that'd be different than you did on the way here.
Yeah. Well, I got us here. So anyway, Beau, thanks for your time. Good luck the rest of the season. And anything we can do to help you, you let us know. And most of that's probably going to be keeping out of your way.
I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Yeah, Coach, great to have you. Enjoyed visiting with you.
This podcast is brought to you by Bravado Wireless. We believe in the power of connection.